Hey guys, my name is Espen Uhlen, and this will be my first video for Run It Once. First hand here, ace and off. I'm gonna play a mix between raising and calling. I don't really think one is a lot better than the other here, probably like 50-50 frequency. If you check it in Monker, I go for the call. Big blind squeezes, and now we have a very easy fold. I don't think there's much to discuss. I would defend suited, very easy fold with offsuit one. Rather have any suited hand or anything with a bit more playability. This one is too often dominated, and yeah, not going to perform well at all. Next hand we have here is ace king off in the cutoff for 53. Not much to discuss. We open, of course. We get 3-bet, 4-bet. And now I think at 50 bigs, this is very easy. The positions are so late that people are going to play quite wide. Button is going to be, small blind is going to be 3-betting quite wide, which means big blind can 4-bet bluff stuff like ace queen, ace jack suited, maybe stuff like this. So 4-bet jamming this very easy, I think. If the positions are a bit different, if it's like under gun 8, under gun 7, and cutoff or whatever, then ace king off can become a bit dicey. But in this spot, it's just a mega print jam. We get it through, which is nice. I remember this hand, and I think it's a mistake from me. At 44 bigs here, I ended up going for the 3-bet call-off, which honestly I don't think is very good. I'm going to have a look at the pre-flop sim soon, and we can see what's going on there. We end up losing a flip to jacks, but that's whatever. I just feel like 3-bet calling off here is going to be quite a lot worse than calling. Giving the blinds an opportunity to squeeze and just playing in a position with a pretty strong hand. I feel like that's going to be a lot better. You keep in a lot of the stuff that you dominate as well by doing this. Like by 3-betting this, you're going to fold out a bunch of weaker ace-x, a bunch of weaker queen-x. And the time to get it in, like usually you're not going to be in great shape. Of course, when he calls the 3-bet, it's a good situation because now you've built a pot with a strong hand and it's nice. But the times that it shoves and you actually have to call it off, it really sucks, I think. And 3-bet folding doesn't seem very appealing either. So I think just like flatting this hand versus most players, maybe if it's from Brazil, maybe 3-bet calling off is better. But unless he is, then probably just flatting is going to be better. We can have a look at the pre-flop sim here. I have one that we can look at. All right, so here's the spot in the sim. Here we have 40 bigs, so everyone has 40 here. You can see that it's like super small frequency, 3-bet here, 6%. Thing about this spot is that you would much rather 3-bet ace king off. You can very easily get it in. You can 3-bet ace 8, ace 9, ace 10, ace jack, because if he jams, it doesn't feel that bad to fold, 3-betting this and folding ace queen, that's just like very disgusting. So we're not going to do that. I think like once you 3-bet though, we can have a look at what his 4-bet range looks like. But I think population is going to be a bit more passive from what I remember looking at this spot earlier. Okay, so this is going to be his 4-betting range. We can see here that it's going to 4-bet jam. His value range is basically 10s plus ace queen off. Then he's going to have some like weaker pairs, 4s, 5s, 7s, mixing 9s. He's going to pure jam, not pure jam, but he's going to jam a lot with queen jack suited, king jack suited. Jam a lot with the suited wheel aces, ace 4, 5, 3 deuce. So if population does this, then it's fine, we can see jam now. We can see that, okay, it's 100% call at a very low frequency that we have this as a 3-bet. But even mixing call with ace jack here is fine once you've 3-betted it. But I think population is just like going to play too passive compared to this. I see too many people flatting the 3-bet with queen jack suited, king jack suited, even the wheel aces, although most people these days will find some jams with these ones. But yeah, I'm not sure how great this is. I think like calling and playing in position here is in general going to be better. All right, next spot we have up here is ace 10 suited in the big blind. Similar spot as the ace jack suited before. You don't really accomplish that much by jamming, so we're going to play pure flat instead. Same concept. Like if you jam and you get calls by all the better hands and you fold out all the worse hands, probably not a good idea. We take a flop. This hand is actually super interesting. Um, this hand still hurts me to look at, actually, because it was such a painful spot, I felt like. Okay, so the hand goes as follows. I check, he bets 35%. I think a lot of players will just see bet range for 1/3 or whatever here without putting too much thought into it. In game, I felt like this was probably going to be a pure race to stack off. Like SPR is what, 3? We have one of the best ace X we have here. I guess we have ace queen in some frequency, and we have a bunch of ace jack, but ace 10 off, ace 10 is going to be pretty high up here, right? So in game, I thought this was going to be a pure race and stack off. We can have a look at the solver solution soon. Spoiler, I was wrong. But anyways, I go for relatively big check raise, I would say, almost 3x. I think this is a bit too big in retrospect. I think you probably want to go like 5 bigs here. Just go like 2.5x is more than enough. He has enough auto folds anyways. If he's sibling range like this, he's going to have infinite hands that has to fold even to a min raise, basically, right? So I think this sizing is too big. Anyways, the hand goes as follows. He calls. Now we get maybe the worst turn in the deck. Like, now we don't beat ace 9 anymore. Nines is going to float flop. We don't beat that anymore. Clubs obviously get there. We have SPR, like we have B75 to play. Really gross spot, I think. In game, it felt close between jam and check. I felt like if you jam here, we're basically folding out. We're gonna fold out like ace 7 of diamonds, right? Ace 6 of diamonds. We're gonna fold out a bunch of the ace X we have dominated. We're gonna get called maybe by some pocket kings with a club, pocket queens with a club, stuff like this, maybe, you know? I think most of the time when you jam here and you get called, you're just drawing dead, basically, right? So I didn't feel jamming was a good option. Betting small could be a thing, I guess. Just bet omega small and reevaluate. But in game, I ended up checking, and he jams. So my thought in game was, for us to make this call, we need him to be bluffing pocket 7s with a club, pocket 6s with a club, pocket 5s with a club, stuff like this, you know? He doesn't really have many floats here that he's going to bluff. I don't think he's supposed to float the flop with like king queen off with a club, king jack off with a club. I think these hands just end up folding flop at this SPR, right? So when you get here on the turn, I need him to bluff pairs with a club, basically, right? Maybe he has stuff like 7-8 suited, but I don't really see people pulling the trigger here and jamming that. I don't really see it happening. So in game, I remember I was actually streaming this tournament on Twitch as well, and I remember saying in game here that for this to be a thing for us to call here, we need him to bluff 7s, 6s, 5s with a club, and I don't see it, so I'm just gonna fold. So I ended up folding, and honestly, I think it's good. Very curious to hear what you guys think about this hand. If you have any comments, happy to take it. But it obviously feels really disgusting. You check raise flop with one of the stronger hands in your range, right? You have no SPR on the turn, basically, and then you have to check fold. It feels really weird. But let's open up the sim and have a look at the hand. I have one solution here that is just pure GTO, and I have one node locked solution that we can look at after. But let's look at the pure GTO strategy first. We can go back to root. So equity, he has 69% equity in position here, which is obviously huge. He has like 4 times as much EV in this hand as we do. Absolutely crushing us here. So we play check with range, of course. I only gave option for B33 here, since I think a lot of population will, or B35, because I think population will tend to do this. They have their one sizing and they stick with that. When I ran it, like with different sizings, he would choose some bigger sizes and he would choose like some one big blind bets. But for simplification of the sim, I just made it, gave him the one option for B35, and as you see, he bets range when that option is given. So he bets range. And if you look here at the GTO solution, Ace 10 of hearts is actually just a pure call, which surprised me a lot. I feel like in spots like this, typically, that you have low SPR and he's betting range, I feel like you get to be quite aggressive in general with these ones. But I guess the point here is that we have so bad equity, 31% equity, so we actually have to play quite passive with the range overall. So we use these strong top pairs as well to protect all the weaker check calls that we're doing, right? I think that's like probably what's going on here. We see that he's doing like some check raising with um, ace jack of hearts, ace jack of diamonds, some ace jack here as well, not holding a spade or diamond, and not blocking the flush draw or the backdoor flush draw. You can see that he's quite aggressive with those sometimes, but in general, also the super low frequency of ace queen that we have, that is just pure check raising. But yeah, other than that, we draw bluffs from some 8x, some 8-5 of diamonds, some 8-4, also some deuce X, like 4 deuce suited, 5 deuce suited. You see these hands repeated in a lot of sims. You use the bottom pair with some backdoor stuff, typically as some of your check raise equity-driven check raise bluffs. Because on these boards, you don't have that much equity-driven bluffs outside of the flush draws, right? So when that happens, you tend to use like some bottom pairs, some mid pairs, stuff like that. So anyways, we can see what happens here when we check raise in this one. Actually, let's go over to the node lock one, because this is going to be irrelevant, right? We're going to end up on the turn with weird ranges because I pure check raised my hand and it was a pure call. So let's go over to the node locked solution instead. Okay, so we have root here. Same equities, of course, is the same hand. Check. Same solution for him on the flop. He is betting 35 with range. But now I'm node locked so that I am check raising pure with all my ace 10 suiteds, that's not clubs, all my ace jacks, that's not clubs, and the same with the offsuit combos. I'm check raising pure with all my combos that does not contain a club. So unless I have the ace of clubs or jack or 10 of clubs, I'm check raising. So quite a bit higher check raising frequency in this sim, and we can see how it plays out like that. I think the turn solution in this hand was really interesting, and it's not really something that I see population doing yet. So it's something that I'm going to explore further for sure. I'll try to explain the concept as best as I can, but as I said, like, it's not something that I'm that used to doing, and I don't really see population doing it either. So I think it's a cool concept, but let's see. So I check raise, and he calls. Turn is 9 of clubs. Yeah, it's this one. Now we can see that out of position only plays jam or check. We don't really play any small bets here, which I think makes sense. It's a really dicey spot. Like, I don't really see many hands that would like to bet small here. I guess, like, let's see how we approach this spot. If we have like ace 6 of clubs, mostly checking. Actually, like, the nut flushes are the ones that are betting small, and that makes a lot of sense. But it's such a small part of the tree, right? Since we check raise so low frequency with these hands on the flop. So you can see that we're jamming a bunch with 2-pair combos. Pocket deuces, that's a set, right? Then we're playing a bunch of checks with the weaker 2 pairs, a bunch of flushes. Our hand in question, the ace 10 of hearts, goes into pure check. So you can see, I think the interesting part of this hand is how he plays versus our flop turn check. We check now. And we can see his strategy is he plays 30% check, then he plays like a few all-ins, like 7%. Then most of his range, I've given 2 sizing options here. I was playing around with sizings, but I figured he was only using 10% anyways. So I gave 2 options in the end, 20% and 10%. And you can see he's only using 10% or jam, very rarely jamming though. Like 10% is going to be like his super dominant strategy here. Because what happens on the turn is that a lot of the hands that beat check raised on the flop, right, like are deuce X with backdoor, or 8X with backdoor, like, or 8-5 of diamonds and shit like that, you know? When we get to this turn, like, we're in a super dicey spot, even versus B10, right? So I think it's a really cool strategy where he gets to punish our range super hard with just B10. Like, so let's see. Okay, so he bets 10%. Let's see, like 8-5 of diamonds here. We're mostly folding versus 10% pot. Our two pairs are going to be jamming, sure, but we're folding a lot with the deuce X and the 8X. I can see 8-4, 8-3. We're just pure folding them. So I think this is a really cool strategy that people don't use too much. This B10 in position here versus what in the end is quite a polarizing strategy, right? The hands that we check raise on the flop are either going to be like pretty darn trashy. We're not check raising a bunch of like medium ace X, right? In this sim, we actually did with like some ace 10 and ace jack, but I would say those are strong ace X, right? We're not really playing check raise with a bunch of ace X. If that was the case, I don't think this strategy would be a thing, because he doesn't really get to punish the really low equity part of our range, that is check raising flop, and he gets to not put in too much money against like the actual omega strong part of our range, right? I.e. flushes. So I think this is super cool strategy, and we can see like what happens here if he jams. Okay, if he jams, we can see that Ace of Hearts is mostly going to be calling, but 30% of the time it's going to be folding. But if you look at what his jamming range looks like here, we can see that it's like, okay, he has ace jack off, he has like some 9-8 suited for two pairs, and then you see he has 9s, 8s, and 7s and 6s with a club, right? And this is what I said in game as well, that we need for him to be bluffing. Yeah, he doesn't even get here with 5s. We need for him to be bluffing 7s, 6s, and 5s with a club for us to do this. And we see it's like such low frequency. And yeah, honestly, in game, I think it happens like even lower frequency. So just going for pure fold with ace 10 of hearts here, I think it looks super nitty and it looks super weird, but I think actually it's going to be pretty good. Like if the sim is mixing 30% fold here, I think just pure folding in game is perfectly fine.